Raised Salt Painting for Preschoolers with Miss Taryn. So today I'm going to show you how to make a raised salt painting with some materials that you can pick up from the library and some other materials that you should have handy at home. So these kits in plastic bags like these are available at the library beginning today, Wednesday, and as long as supplies last. So pick yours up today and be sure to follow along with me as we do the activity. All right, so first of all, I'm going to show you what is in your paper bag that you can pick up. All right, so first of all, you should find a small instruction sheet that says salt painting with your preschooler, okay? And then below it, it'll list the items that are included in the bag and then the additional items that you'll need to do this fun video. Okay, all right, so let's read, and on the back, of course, on the back we have our instructions, which I'll go over and show you how to do. All right, so what we're gonna do first is look at what's included in our bag. So first of all, we have 2 liquid watercolor paint containers. So you should have something that looks kind of like this. Yours might have different colors. You should have a page of cardstock paper. It's this thicker type of paper. All right, and you should also have a pipette or a dropper like this. And we've used this in several of our mini thinkers experiments. So you may have one already at home, but here's another one just in case. All right, so that is what is included in your bag. And now I'm gonna go over what you'll have to gather at home, which is very basic stuff. Okay, so first of all, you'll need a bottle of glue, like this one. You'll also need some salt. I just got the whole container just to see how much I need. And then this is not required, but it's helpful. A plastic cup of water. This will be to clean out your dropper. All right, and then also, not required but recommended, a baking dish or a tray or something like that. If you're using like a cookie sheet or an actual dish that goes in the oven, I would recommend putting like aluminum foil or wax paper down because you may get paint on it. All right, so I'm using this foil pan because it's disposable and easier that way. All right, you ready to get started? Let's do it. Okay, so we're gonna flip it over and read our instructions. So the first thing you want to do is to take your bottle of glue and squeeze a design, a picture or letters on the piece of cardstock paper that is provided. Okay, now one thing that I put here is be sure to put a baking dish underneath your paper. That is going to be for when we put the salt on the paper, okay? So after you use the glue on your paper, you'll want to transfer it to the baking dish, all right? There's my little sample there. All right, so I'm going to try to make something here. Let's see. You may not be able to see it very well. Okay. I'm making a flower. I'll make it this way. This will be long. So I've got its little stems here, the stalk, the petals and everything. Now you are free to do whatever you want with this. You can practice spelling out your name using the glue. You can just make designs, whatever level your child is at. So your older children may want to practice spelling out their name. Your younger children may just want to take the glue and go wherever their hearts desire. And either one is perfectly fine. Okay, so here's what I've got so far. I don't want the glue to run too much, but I want to show you my flour. So now I'm going to set it in the baking dish. All right, let's look at our instructions, see what we do next. Next, we're going to sprinkle salt over the paper until the glue is thoroughly covered. Okay, so I want to make sure that each part of my little flower that I made with glue is covered in salt, because that's how we're going to get the beautiful design, okay? So once we finish it, we'll pick up the sheet shake it off over the baking dish to get rid of any excess salt. That's another good reason to have the baking dish. It's easier to clean up. So you moms and dads and grandparents are not wiping up salt off your surfaces. All right, so here we go. Whoa, I used a little bit too much there, didn't I? Okay, so now, actually when I turn it towards you, it's going to move it down, which is good. Okay, so I'm gonna move it up. It's gonna come off. And then I'm gonna kind of pull it up and shake it. You can hear all that salt in there. Now, I definitely got too much salt. So you may want to measure out a little bit for your child instead of having a whole big shaker of salt. So anyway, here is mine. You can see the design a little bit better because we now have it outlined in salt. I do have quite a bit of salt in my dish. So, all right, so let's see. Oops, still got some more coming off. Let's see what's next. Number 3, squeeze the pipette in your container of paint and then gently release it over the salt-covered glue lines. All right. So this is where we get to be artistic, and that's my example. All right, so I'm gonna open up both colors of paint here. And I think I wanna use the blue first. So I'm going to squeeze the pipette once I put it inside. And then when I release it, look at that, it goes all the way up. All right, so then release it over the salt-covered glue lines. Now, depending on how much paint you put in here, depends on how much is gonna come out in this flower. Okay, so I'm gonna start it here. And I'll try to turn it up so you guys can see it a little bit better. Now some of it is already coming off. Look at it. It's traveling. Isn't that cool? Okay, now I got a little bit on the paper, and that's okay too. So one of the things that the salt will do is it'll continue to carry the colors. Okay. Now if I don't want it to move very much, I can just kind of try to keep it flat. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that. All right, and I'm just gonna do the whole flower stem with this blue color, okay? So yours might be thicker than mine. Mine's actually pretty thick, or it might be less than mine. So you can put however much paint in it that you want. It is watercolor paint. It still will likely stain your clothes, so I would be careful with it. So let's see, watch the paint travel in both directions. So you can see a little bit how it's traveling. It's still wet, so it's gonna move a little bit here, but it's going up a little bit onto our flower petals as well. And then as I was painting it with the dropper, it would move. That watercolor paint was traveling along the salt lines. Okay, all right. So now we can use the other color. And by all means, if you have other colors that you want to use at home, or even if you have food coloring, that will work too. The watercolor paint is just really, gives it a really nice color. So here's the part that is helpful. So I am gonna squeeze out all this extra blue. I may have a hard time doing it because I got a whole lot of blue paint in my dropper. Okay. Yeah, so it may be hard to get it out. All right, it's mostly gone. Mostly gone. Perfect, okay. So keep going till your painting is complete. All right, so I'm gonna now stick my paint in the pink. And my pink is probably gonna have some blue in it, and that's okay. All right, now I'm gonna repeat. Now if you want to keep doing this and you run out of paint, there's more than enough paint to do one sheet even maybe a few sheets. But if you want the paint to last longer, you can add water to it. It is a water-based paint, so it's going to just change the color a little bit. It'll be a little bit lighter, but not a whole lot. All right, so I'm gonna start here in the middle. Ooh, it's really bright. Okay. And then move it around like this. Yeah, and see, I didn't even have to color every single piece because it's doing it on its own. I'm just kind of dropping it to color to make sure it gets every little piece. Cool. All right, so this one has maybe a few more bubbles in it than my other one. Ooh, my water jar has turned a nice purple color, hasn't it? Because of that blue and the pink mixed together is purple. That's pretty cool. All right, so this is my pink flower salt painting. Uh-oh, this may happen, and that's okay. So my paint is moving down a little bit. Let me show you an example of one that I did earlier that I kept flat. I've been trying to move it around to show you guys, but I would recommend keeping it flat on the table or on your baking dish or wherever, just so that the paint doesn't run. All right, so there's that one. Now what you want to do is set it somewhere to dry completely. Because my paint was really thick, it may take up to a day or 2 days to completely dry. So I would just set it somewhere out of reach where it can sit quietly. But let me show you my unfinished rainbow painting that I did, and it still has some salt that's coming off of it. All right, so I didn't get to finish all of it. I did it a little bit thinner, but you see there's little specks of color that have come off of it, but I did keep this one level. So this is what yours should look like. And then the pieces of the cloud, if you'll notice that, the pieces of the cloud here are ones that I didn't even put my paint on. So that's how the salt traveled. And then the blue went here, have a little bit of purple. So it is super cool. I highly recommend this. This is an easy way to paint with your little one. It helps work on their finger dexterity and fine motor skills by using this little dropper to do their painting. Okay, and then it also allows them creativity to create something that they are proud of. All right, so that is it for our salt painting. Again, you can pick up kits beginning today, Wednesday, at the library while supplies last. So you can do that via curbside, or you can come into the children's area and ask for a kit. All right, I think that's everything. Thank you all for joining me. Bye.